Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Theruvan Saranai. Good evening, Venerable Mahasangha, Sayales, and brothers and sisters in the Dhamma. Today we will be continuing our talk on the Hetu Gocchaka, part 3. Now, during the last two lessons, we discussed in detail what Hetu Dhamma and Na Hetu Dhamma are, and that was the first couplet of the Hetu Gocchaka. So today we will be moving on and discussing about the rest of the couplets within this cluster. First, we will look at the different couplets within this cluster. We spoke about Hetu Dhamma and Na Hetu Dhamma, states which are root causes and states which are not root causes. The next couplet, Sahetuka Dhamma and Ahetuka Dhamma, states which have root causes, states which do not have root causes. Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma and Hetu Vipayutta Dhamma, states which are associated with root causes and states which are dissociated from root causes. Next we have Hetu Cheva Dhamma Sahetuka Cha. Sahetuka Cheva Dhamma Na Cha Hetu, states which are root causes and are also associated with root causes, states which are associated with root causes but are not root causes. Hetu Cheva Dhamma Hetu Sampayutta Cha. Hetu Sampayutta Cheva Dhamma Na Cha Hetu, states which are root causes and which are also associated with root causes, states which are associated with root causes but are not root causes. And finally, we have Na Hetu Kopana Dhamma Sahetukapi, Na Hetu Kopana Dhamma Ahetukapi, states which are not root causes but which have root causes, and states which are not root causes and which have no root causes. The first couplet was Hetu Dhamma, states which are root causes, and Na Hetu Dhamma, states which are not root causes. And now coming to the analytical states, Hetu Dhamma, states that are root causes, we get the 6 roots. Alobha, adosa, amoha, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion, and lobha, dosa, moha, greed, hatred, and delusion. Na Hetu Dhamma, states that are not root causes. Here we get the rest of the Dhammas. So we get 21 kusala, wholesome consciousness, 12 akusala, unwholesomes, 36 vipaka, resultants, 20 kriya, functionals, and 46 mental factors, that is after deducting the 6 roots from the 52 mental factors, 28 rupa, matter, and nibbana. Now let's look at the classification. The 6 roots are classified under one kanda, one aggregate, and one base, one element, and 3 noble truths. So what are the 3 noble truths? We get dukkha satcha. So basically, except for lobha, the remaining 5 roots are classified under dukkha satcha. Then lobha falls under samudaya satcha. And since we have amoho, non-delusion, that also acts as sammaditthi, which is magga satcha. So that is how we get the 3 noble truths. Now we move on to na hetu dhamma, states that are not root causes. And these dhammas are classified under 5 aggregates. We get all 5 aggregates, 12 bases, 18 elements, and all 4 noble truths. And just a little bit how we get all 4 noble truths. The mundane dhammas will be classified, except for lobha, will be classified under dukkha satcha. And lobha will be classified. Lobha is not there. So this should be 3 noble truths. So we get dukkha satcha, the mundane dhammas will be classified under dukkha satcha. And we get nirodha satcha because nibbana is here. Then under magga satcha, within these 46 mental factors, we get the 7 path factors except for samma ditthi. So then there again we get the magga satcha. So we get 3 noble truths under this na hetu dhamma. We now move on to the next couplet, Sahetuka Duka. Sahetuka Dhamma states with root causes and Ahetuka Dhamma states without root causes. So what is Sahetuka? Sahetuka means with roots. That means occurring together with roots by way of association. Ahetuka means without roots. This means having no roots which occur in a similar way of association. So what is this association? Now we know that chitta, chetasika, they don't arise on their own. They arise together. So whenever a chitta, a consciousness arises, together with it arises several mental factors. So here what we are talking about are the roots that arise together with this chitta chetasika dhamma. So whenever we say sahetuka, it means we are referring to the dhammas that arise together with roots. We'll now look at the Nikkepa Khanda, the summary section description of sahetuka dhamma. Katame dhamma sahetuka. Which are the states with root causes? Tehi dhammehi ye dhamma sahetuka. Vedana kando, peyala, vijnana kando. Those states, the 4 aggregates, which have as concomitant roots the states enumerated above. Ime dhamma sahetuka. These are the states with root causes. Now let's look at the Atthakatha Khandam description. Katame Dhamma Sahetuka. Which are the states with root causes? Vichikiccha Sahagatang, Uddacha Sahagatang, Mohang Tapetva. Excluding delusion accompanied by doubt and restlessness. Avasesang Akusala. The remaining unwholesome states. Chatusu Bhumisu Kusalam. Wholesome states of the 4 planes of existence. Kāmāvacharassa vipākato ahetuke chittuppāde tapetva chatusu bhumisu vipāko. Excluding sense sphere rootless resultant risings of consciousness, the resultants of the 4 planes of existence. Kāmāvachara kiryato ahetuke chittuppāde tapetva Tisu bhumisu kiryabhyakata. Excluding sense sphere rootless functional risings of consciousness, the functionals of the 3 planes of existence. Ime dhamma sahetuka. These are the states with root causes. Now here the second line. Excludes delusion that is accompanied by doubt and restlessness. What does that mean? Now, if you take the 12 akusala chitta, the 12 unwholesome consciousness, the 8 lobha chitta, they have 2 roots. They have lobha and moha. They have lobha and moha. Therefore, if you take one of these roots, the other root, by way of the other root, that particular root will become sahetuka. Likewise, they act as hetu for each other. It's the same when it comes to the dosa mula chitta. There are two roots, dosa and moha. However, when it comes to the moha mula chitta, there is only one root, only delusion, only moha. And this moha doesn't have another root by which it can become sahetuka. So it is alone. It doesn't have another root to make moha itself sahetuka. That is why we exclude delusion from this term. Then when we come to the kamavachara vipaka and the kamavachara kriya, remember we have a category called rootless or ahetuka vipaka and ahetuka kriya. The word itself, ahetuka, means it does not contain any roots. Therefore, those chitta, those 18 chitta needs to be excluded from this sahetuka dhamma term. That is why we excluded the 15 ahetuka vipaka and the 3 ahetuka kriya, which is mentioned in lines 5 and 6 in this description. Now we move on to the Atthakatha Khandam description. Kathame Dhamma Sahetuka. Which are the states with root causes? Vichikicha Sahagatam, Uddacha Sahagatam, Mohang Tapetva. Excluding delusion, accompanied by doubt and restlessness. Now here, to come back to describe this again. Now when we take the 12 akusala chitta, Lobha chitta has lobha and moha. Dosa chitta has dosa and moha. But when it comes to the moha chitta, it has one root. It has only moha. So when there is only one root, it doesn't have a friend that it can call root. So moha is a root, but it doesn't have another root for us to be able to call it sahetuka. The word sahetuka means with roots. That means whatever dhamma that we are talking about needs to be accompanied or associated with another root. So the moha that belongs to the two moha mula chitta, the two consciousness rooted in delusion, that doesn't have another root to be accompanied by. So for this reason, delusion, moha, that arises with the two consciousness rooted in greed. That means the delusion moha, which is arising with the moha mula chitta, are called ahetuka, without roots. Moha itself is a root, but it is ahetuka because there isn't another root that it is associated with. So another way to look at it. On the left side, we have Hetu Dhamma. Those are the 6 roots. Sahetuka Dhamma means being associated or having these roots together with them. So the Sahetuka Dhamma are the Dhammas that are that have roots or are associated with these roots. So what are these Dhammas? We get 71 Sahetuka Chitta. Why only the Sahetuka Chitta? The remaining 18 Dhamma, 18 Chitta are called Ahetuka. That word itself implies that they have got no roots. So those 18 need to be deducted from the 89 Chitta. So we are left with only 71 Sahetuka Chitta. We get 52 Chetasika, 52 mental factors. However, we need to exclude delusion, moha, that arises with the two moha mula chitta, the two delusion rooted consciousness. But the number 52 will not change. We still have 52 mental factors because we get moha coming from the lobha mula chitta as well as the dosa mula chitta. So we can't remove that Chetasika completely. It's only partially removed. Now to the next term. Ahetuka Dhamma, states without root causes. Katame Dhamma Ahetuka. Which are the states without root causes? Tehi Dhammehi Ye Dhamma Ahetuka Vedanakando Peyalam Viññānakando. Ye Dhamma, those states. That means the four aggregates, which do not have as concomitant roots the states enumerated above. So here the Tehi Dhammehi. Tehi Dhammehi is referring to the 6 roots. So whatever Dhammas, that means the 4 aggregates, which do not have concomitant roots, these are the Dhammas that are mentioned in this line. In other words, we are talking about the Ahetuka, Chitta and Chetasika, because we are talking only about the 4 aggregates. Sabbancha Rupa, and all matter. Asankatacha Dhatu, and the unincluded element, that is Nibbana. Ime Dhamma Ahetuka. These are the states without root causes. And now the Atthakatha description. Katame Dhamma Ahetuka. Which are the states without root causes? Vichikiccha Sahagato Moho, Uddacha Sahagato Moho. Delusion accompanied by doubt and restlessness. So here we are talking about the moha, the delusion, mental factor that is accompanied by doubt and restlessness. That means the delusion that is associated with the moha mula, the 2 moha mula chitta. Dve pancha viññānāni, twice fivefold consciousness. That means the ahetuka, the 10 ahetuka chitta, starting from chakku viññāna, chakku sota gana jibha kaya viññāna. Tissocha mano dhatuyo, and the 3 mind element. So here we get the 2 sampatichana and the panchadvara vajjana chitta. Panchacha ahetuka mano viññāna dhatuyo, and 5 rootless mind consciousness elements. So what are these 5? We get 3 santirana. That means we get 1 santirana coming from the from the akusala vipaka, and we get 2 santirana coming from the ahetuka kusala vipaka. And we get the manodvara vajjana and the hasitupada. So these are the 5 rootless mind consciousness. Altogether, we get 18 ahetuka chitta. Rupancha and matter, Nibbanancha, and the final state of deliverance. Ime Dhamma Ahetuka. These are the states without root causes. Now let's look at the analytical states of each of these terms. Sahetuka Dhamma, states with root causes. We get the 71 Sahetuka Chitta, consciousness with roots. That means 89 minus 18 Ahetuka Chitta. We get 52 Chetasika, mental factors, excluding the Moha Chetasika of the 2 Moha Mula Chitta, the 2 delusion-rooted consciousness. Then under the Ahetuka Dhamma, states without root causes, we get 18 Ahetuka Chitta, rootless consciousness, and 12 Anyasamana, ethically variable mental factors. That means minus, excluding Chanda. Then in addition, we need to take the moha that we deducted from Sahetuka Dhamma. So the moha belonging to the 2 moha mula chitta are taken under Ahetuka Dhamma. 28 rupa, matter, and Nibbana. So Sahetuka Dhamma are classified under 4 aggregates, 2 bases and 2 elements. So that's because we get only Chitta Chetasika Dhamma, and they are classified under 3 noble truths. So here we get Dukkha Satcha. The mundane Dhammas are classified under Dukkha Satcha. We don't get Samudaya Satcha, and we get Magga Satcha. So, no, sorry. No, we get Samudaya Satcha, sorry. We have 52 mental factors, so we have Lobha there. So we get Samudaya Satcha and Magga Satcha also, because we have all of the 8 path factors. So what is missing here is Nibbana, that is Nirodha Satcha. So that is the only one missing here. So the remaining 3 noble truths are there. And Ahetuka Dhamma are classified under 5 aggregates, 12 bases, 18 elements, and 2 noble truths. Now here we get the Dukkha Satcha as well as Nirodha Satcha. So what is meant by Hetu Sampayutta? States conjoined with roots by way of a common origin, ekuppada, etc., are termed associated with root causes. Now, that means Hetu Sampayutta, or associated with roots, means being joined equally or together in a variety of ways. And what are these ways? Ekuppada, having a common origin. That means whatever Dhamma that is with this root needs to arise at the same time as the Hetu. So they have a common arising or a common origin. Eka Nirodha, there is a common cessation. So the Hetu together with the Dhamma that is associated with it will have a common cessation. Ekavattuka has a common base. So, for example, if you take the Chakku Vijnana Chitta, the Chakku Vijnana Chitta arises together with 7 mental factors, the 7 universal mental factors. So this Chakku Vijnana together with those 7 mental factors will arise in the same base. It arises in the I base. So you won't find the Chitta and arising in one place and the Chetasika arising in another place. They all arise in the same place. So when it comes to Hetu Sampayutta, we are talking about Dhammas associated with roots. So if you take a Kusala Chitta, it will arise in the Hadevattu together with its concomitant mental factors. So that is called Ekavattuka. Then Ekarammana, having a common object. That means the Chitta and Chetasika will always take the same object of thought. The Arammana is going to be the same. So you won't find the Chitta and the other mental factors taking different objects. They will have a common object. So this is what Sampayutta means. Joined together in a variety of ways, and these are the 4 ways of being joined. Then we have Hetu Vippayutta. These are the states disjoined from roots and are called dissociated from root causes. So Hetu Vippayutta means there is no such association between the roots and these Dhammas. Now we come to a Atthasālinī description. Though there is no difference in meaning between the 2 couplets, that means Sahetuka and Hetu Sampayutta, because they are actually identical. However, they have been thus specified partly by way of Desana Vilasa, embellishment of discourse. So this is a way that Lord Buddha has utilized to describe Dhammas, the same Dhamma in different ways, and partly to meet the needs of those persons who thus gain enlightenment. That is called Puggala Ajjasa. So different people understand the same thing in different ways. So that is why they have, that is why this same thing is being described in two ways, but we are talking about the same thing. So, Sahetuka Dhamma and Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma are identical. Similarly, Ahetuka Dhamma and Hetu Vippayutta Dhamma are also identical. So, the Nikkepa Khandam description. Kathame Dhamma Hetu Sampayutta, which are the states that are associated with root causes. Tehi Dhammehi Ye Dhamma Sampayutta, Vedanakkandu, Kayalam, Vijnanakkandu. The states, the four aggregates which are associated with those states enumerated above. Ime Dhamma Hetu Sampayutta. These are the states that are associated with root causes. And the Atthakatha Khandam description is identical to the description given under Sahetuka Dhamma. So I will not go through it again. And now, Hetu Vippayutta Dhamma. Kathame Dhamma Hetu Vippayutta. Again, this description is identical to Ahetuka Dhamma. And similarly, the Atthakatha Khandam description is also identical to Ahetuka Dhamma. So here, the analytical states are identical to Sahetuka Dhamma when it comes to Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma and Ahetuka Dhamma when it comes to Hetu Vippayutta Dhamma. Now, regarding Hetu Vippayutta Dhamma, the Chanda, the mental factor Chanda has been excluded from the mental factors here. So we have been asked a question, why only Chanda? Now remember the Hetu Vippayutta Dhamma or the Ahetuka Dhamma means the Dhammas that are not associated with roots. So we get the 18 Ahetuka Chitta. And when you take the 18 Ahetuka Chitta, they are associated or they arise together with 12 Anya Samana Chetasika. Chanda doesn't arise with any of these 18 Ahetuka Chitta because there is no, the arising of these 18 rootless Chitta occurs due to the Dhamma, due to the natural flow of the cognitive process. We have no choice or we have no way of determining whether these Chitta arise or not. They will happen according to the flow of the cognitive process. That is why Chanda is not there. So the maximum number of Chetasika that we can get arising together with these 18 rootless consciousness are the 12 Anya Samana Chetasika. So it is obviously, you will not get the other Chetasika like Piti or Virya and then the Sobhana Chetasika. None of those Chetasika will be here because those are Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma. They were considered under Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma. And here we are deducting the Moha Chetasika only from the Moha Mula Chitta. We are not taking away the other Chetasikas. So Moha, if you take the Moha Chitta, you take one Moha Chitta, it is associated with 15 Chetasika. And those among those 15 Chetasika, if you take, let's say, Vedana, the Vedana in the Moha Mula Chitta has the Moha Mula for it to become Sahetuka. Therefore, we will take it as a Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma. So, all the other Dhammas that arise with the Moha Chitta are Sahetuka except for the Moha Chetasika itself because it doesn't have another root for it to become Sahetuka.
Doctor, just to clarify, Doctor mentioned PT Virya. PT Virya will arise with the Ahetuka Chittas, right? Only the Sobhana and the will not, and the Akusala.
Sorry, yes, Preeti will arise with the Hasituppada Chitta and Virya will also arise with the Hasitupada Chitta. Yes, correct. Sorry, not Preeti and Virya, but if you take the other Sobana Chetasika and the Asobana Chetasika, they will not arise here. Yes, thank you, Brother Cheche.
Okay.
So the Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma are classified under 4 aggregates, Khanda, 2 Ayatana bases, 2 Dhatu elements, and 3 Arya Satcha. And Hetu Vipayutta Dhamma are classified under 5 Khanda aggregates, 12 Ayatana bases, 18 elements, Dhatu, and 2 noble truths, Arya Satcha. Now we move on to the Hetu Sahetuka Duka, root causes associated with root causes couplet. So this is the Atthasālinī description. Next, after the last mentioned couplets, combining the first couplet with the second and third couplets, the other 3 couplets are uttered. So now what we are basically doing is, we are taking the first couplet. So what is the first couplet? Hetu Dhamma and Na Hetu Dhamma. And with those terms, we are going to combine them with the second and third couplets. So in the second couplet, we got Sahetuka Dhamma and Ahetuka Dhamma. Third couplet, we got Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma and Hetu Vipayutta Dhamma. So we will be picking one term from each of these couplets and combining them together. So for example, Hetu Cheva Dhamma Sahetuka Cha. So this means states that are root causes and with root causes. So now we are considering 2 terms together. And similarly, we can make the term Hetu Cheva Dhamma Ahetukapi. States that are root causes but without root causes. So in the same way, we can take the second term, Sahetuka, and combine it with the Hetu Duka. So Sahetuka Cheva Dhamma Nacha Hetu, states with root causes but not root causes. Or we can take the second term, Ahetuka, Ahetuka Cheva Dhamma Nacha Hetu, states without root causes but not root causes. So we can form these in different terms by combining different terms of these 3 couplets. Though the expression Na Hetu Dhamma, states which are not root causes, are with root causes, Sahetukapi, as well as without root causes, Ahetukapi, would suffice. An extra phrase was used, but indeed, kopana, when it was said, but indeed, states which are not root causes, na hetu kopana dhamma, etc. In the text, it may be understood that the following additional meaning is implied by its use. How? Not only states which are not root causes, na hetu, may be classified as with root causes and without root causes. So we can classify na hetu dhamma as sahetuka as well as ahetuka. So we can say na hetu kopana dhamma sahetukapi, or we can say na hetu kopana dhamma ahetukapi. Similarly, we can also take hetu dhamma and reclassify it in the same way. We can say Hetu Dhamma Hetu Kopana Dhamma Sahetukapi, Hetu Kopana Dhamma Ahetukapi. So, however, that is not described in the text. So, to give the idea that we can also classify other combinations of terms, they have brought in this phrase Kopana. Now let's look at the 4th couplet, Hetu Sahetuka Duka, root causes associated with root causes couplet. Hetu Cheva Dhamma Sahetuka Cha, states that are root causes and associated with root causes. Sahetuka Cheva Dhamma Nacha Hetu, states with root causes but not root causes. So now we are looking at 2 terms combined. We are taking Hetu Dhamma from Hetu Duka, and we are taking Sahetuka Dhamma from Sahetuka Duka, and we are putting them together. So what we are going to get as analytical states are the Dhammas that fall into this overlapping area. So basically, whatever Dhamma that is in this overlapping area should be a Hetu as well as a Sahetuka Dhamma.
那这里呢，就是说呢，我们必须要找呢这两种法，就是因法跟有因法呢，它们呢重叠的地方，就是重叠地方，就是中间我们的重叠地方呢，这是因且有因法，就是呢，它既是因法，同时呢也是有因法。
So to elaborate more on it, so basically what falls into this overlapping area is definitely a Hetu. We can't get away from that. But among these Hetu also, there are some Dhammas which are not Sahetuka. As we mentioned before, we said the Moha Chetasika delusion that is associated with the Moha Mula Chitta is not Sahetuka. It is Ahetuka because it doesn't have another Hetu to become Sahetuka. So we get all of these alobha, adosa, amoha, lobha, dosa, moha. However, we need to exclude the moha chetasika of the two moha mula chitta. So that is what we will get in this overlapping area. Now let's look at the Nikkepakanda, the summary section description. Kathame Dhamma Hetu Cheva Sahetuka Cha. Which are the states that are root causes and with root causes? Lobo mohena hetu cheva sahetuko cha. Greed with delusion is both a root cause and with roots. Now what does this mean? Greed with delusion. Where do we find greed with delusion? We find greed and delusion arising together with the lobha mula chitta. So when it comes to the lobha mula chitta, we have two roots, greed with delusion. So here the greed is a root and it is also sahetuka. It is also with roots because delusion is there with it. Then the next line, moho lobena hetu cheva sahetuko cha. Delusion with greed is both a root cause and with roots. So now we are talking about moha, delusion. Delusion itself is a root cause. And because it is accompanied by greed, it becomes with roots or sahetuka. Doso mohena hetu cheva sahetuko cha. Hatred with delusion is both the root cause and with roots. Now we are talking about hatred and delusion that arises together with the dosa mula chitta. So hatred is a root cause, and because there is also delusion or moha chetasika arising together with this hatred, it is also sahetuka with roots. Moho dosena hetu cheva sahetuko cha. Delusion with hatred is both a root cause and with roots. So delusion or moha is a root cause, and because it is associated with hatred, it becomes with roots, sahetuka. Alobo, adoso, amo, non-greed, non-hatred, non-delusion. Te anyamanyang hetu cheva sahetuka cha. These also taken with the other. Both are root causes and with root causes. Now when you take aloba, adosa, amoha, these dhammas usually arise either in pairs or in threes. That means we get dvihetuka or trihetuka chitta chetasika. So in some chittas we get all three roots, alobha, adosa, amoha occurring together. Or we will get alobha and adosa only in the dvihetuka chitta occurring together. But because there is either 2 or 3 arising together, they always have a partner. So those roots will always be sahetuka because they don't arise alone. They arise with either another root or 2 roots. That is why it is mentioned te anyamanyam hetu. These support each other. Anyamanyam. Ime dhamma hetu cheva sahetuka cha. These are the states that are root causes and with root causes. And now the Atthakatha Khandam description. Katame dhamma hetu cheva sahetuka cha, which are the states that are root causes and with root causes. Yatta dve thayo hetu ekato uppajjanti, where 2 or 3 root causes arise together. So that is what we mentioned before. Whenever there are 2 root causes or 3 root causes arising together, then each of them will have another hetu to partner with. So then we can call them sahetuka. But if hetu arises on its own, then it doesn't have another hetu for it to become sahetuka, for it to become with roots. Ime dhamma hetu cheva sahetuka cha. These are the states that are root causes and with root causes. Sahetuka cheva dhamma nacha hetu. Now we'll look at the Nikkepa Khandam summary section description. Katame dhamma sahetuka cheva nacha hetu. Which are the states that are with root causes but not root causes? Tehi dhamme hi ye dhamma sahetuka te dhamme tapetva vedanakkhandho peyalam viññānakkhandho. Ye dhamma, the states. That means we are talking about the 4 aggregates, which have as their concomitant root those states enumerated above as root causes. So this means the states that we are talking about are sahetuka. That means they are with roots. But the latter states themselves accepted. That means we have to remove the hetu because the last part of our term is nacha hetu. Although these dhammas are sahetuka, they are not hetu. So we have to remove the root causes from this equation. Ime dhamma sahetuka cheva nacha hetu. These are the states that are with root causes but not root causes. States which by those 6 root causes, states have 1 or more of them as concomitants. Tehi dhammehi ye dhamma sahetuka. That means you get a certain group of dhammas that are called sahetuka or with roots because they are combined with these root causes or they are associated with these root causes. That is, whatever other states, whether they are themselves among the 6 root causes or not, these are with root causes, sahetuka. So this sahetuka dhamma doesn't have to be a root cause. Whether they themselves are root causes or not, sahetuka means having roots or with roots. And that is why under this term, sahetuka cha nacha hetu, when we say with root causes but not roots, we can easily make that term because it is not necessary for the sahetuka dhamma to be a root cause itself. It doesn't have to be a root cause. Same for the term without roots, ahetuka. So here root cause is just the mula, the root cause. where two or where three conditions or mula arise together, the term with root causes applies. But where delusion accompanied by doubt and restlessness, vichikiccha sahagata and uddacha sahagato moho. The root cause, delusion, is itself unaccompanied by other conditions. So it is called ahetuka. So also for the exposition of the couplet of states associated with root causes, Hetu Sampayutta Duka. So in Hetu Sampayutta Duka also we spoke about Hetu Sampayutta Dhamma and Hetu Vippayutta Dhamma. So this same description applies for that dukkha as well. Now we come to the Atthakatha Khandam commentary chapter description. Kathame Dhamma Sahetuka Cheva Nacha Hetu. Which are the states that are with root causes but not root causes? Chatusu Bhumisu Kusala. Wholesome states of the four planes of existence. Akusala. Unwholesome states. Kāmāvacharassa vipākato ahetuke chittupāde tapetva. Chatusu bhumisu vipāko. Excluding sense-sphere rootless resultant risings of consciousness, the resultants of the four planes of existence. Now here, from the 36 vipāka, we have 36 vipāka in total belonging to the four planes of existence. We need to remove the ahetuka vipāka. That means 15 vipāka chitta needs to be taken out because that word itself, ahetuka chitta, itself means that they are not sahetuka. So from 36 we deduct 15. We are left with 21 sahetuka vipāka chitta. Kāmāvachara kiriyato ahetuke chittupāde tapetva tisu bhumisu kiriyabhyakatam. Excluding sense-sphere rootless functional risings of consciousness, the functionals of the three planes of existence. So we know that there are 20 functionals in the three planes of existence. Out of them, 3 are rootless, 3 are ahetuka. So when we deduct those 3, we are left with 17 sahetuka or consciousness that are with roots. Ettupanne hetu tapetva, excluding the root causes arising therewith. Now why are we removing the hetu? Because our term says nacha hetu, not root causes. So we are taking only the dhamma that are sahetuka, but we need to exclude the hetu themselves. So that is why we have said ettupanne hetu tapetva. Ime dhamma sahetuka cheva nacha hetu. These are the states that are with root causes but not root causes. Now the commentary chapter goes on to give this paragraph. Ahetuka dhamma, states without root causes, navatabba, should not be stated as hetu cheva sahetuka cha tipi, sahetuka cheva nacha hetu tipi. States that are root causes and with root causes, or as states that are with root causes but not root causes. So it is self-explanatory, no? Now the first term is talking about hetu cheva sahetuka. So we are talking about sahetuka dhamma in our first term. The second term, again, we are talking about sahetuka dhamma, sahetuka cheva nacha hetu. So in both terms, if we are talking only about sahetuka dhamma, that means ahetuka dhamma are excluded from these two terms. That is why we say that ahetuka dhamma should not be stated as either of these two terms. So the analytical states of the two terms. Hetu cheva dhamma sahetuka cha, states that are root causes and with root causes. So now we are talking about roots. They are not only roots, they are also with root causes. So we get the 6 roots, but we need to deduct or exclude delusion, moha, of the 2 moha mula chitta, the 2 delusion rooted consciousness. Then the next term, sahetuka cheva dhamma nacha hetu, states that are with root causes but not root causes. So what are the sahetuka dhamma? Sahetuka dhamma are the 71 consciousness with roots, the sahetuka chitta, and the associated mental factors. So here, because we have got nacha hetu but not root causes, we have to remove the roots from these mental factors. So 52 minus 6, we are left with 46 chetasika, excluding the 6 root causes. So the first term, Hetu Cheva Dhamma Sahetukacha, states there are root causes and with root causes. These dhammas are classified under 1 kanda, 1 aggregate, 1 ayatana base, 1 element dhatu, and 3 noble truths. So all of the mundane roots except for greed will be classified under dukkha satcha. Greed, lobo will be classified under samudaya satcha. Then we have non-delusion, amoho, which acts as sammaditthi. That will be magga satcha. So we get 3 noble truths, 3 arya satcha. And now to the second term, sahetuka cheva dhamma nacha hetu, states that are with root causes but not root causes. So here we get 4 kanda, 4 aggregates, 2 ayatana bases, 2 dhatu elements, and 2 noble truths. So we get dukkha satcha. We don't get samudaya satcha because there is no lobha. The hetu have been excluded here. And we don't get nirodha satcha because nibbana is not here. So we get magga satcha. And what are the magga? The 7 path factors excluding sammaditthi, because sammaditthi is alobha, that is a hetu. It has been excluded here. So we get the remaining 7 path factors here. So remember, I haven't enumerated it here, but when we are talking about the aggregates or the noble truths, if there is a dhamma that is outside the scope of any of these categories, you need to keep that also in mind. So for example, here you get the magga chitta, the phala chitta, and the other remaining mental factors. So they are outside the scope of the noble truth. So I didn't mention it here. However, you should remember, in the same way that we describe the other matika, these also should be described in the same way. So in the interest of time, we will stop our lesson here. I was actually hoping to answer a couple of questions that we received via email. They were very interesting questions, but unfortunately, we don't have any time to discuss those. So we will end our lesson here and continue from this point during our next lesson. Our next lesson will be on the 15th of March.
我们的下一堂课呢，会在3月15号，就是2个星期后的星期天。
It is now time to share merits. I would like all of you to join me.
现在呢，我们一起来分享功德。老师也请大家呢跟着老师一起分享功德。
Akasatta cha bummatta deva naga mahitika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakhantu sasanam chiran rakhantu desanam chiran rakhantu mamvaram idam me nyanti nantu Sukita
Hontu
Punyatayo.
Idamme
Idamme Yatinam Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo. Idamme Yatinam Hotu Sukita Hontu Nyatayo. Imina Punyakamena Mame Bala Samagamo Satan Samagamo Hotu Yavanipana Patya. Idam me punyang asavakya vaham hotu. Idam me punyang nibbana pachayo hotu. Mama punya bhagang sabba sattvana vajeni. Te sabbe me samang punya bhagang labantu. Buddha sasanang chirantitatu. Buddha sasanang chirantitatu. Buddha sasanang chirantitatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Doctor. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Doctor. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.